breaking national news with the latest developments in the Middle East. A special report, crisis in the Persian Gulf.
Arab leaders today ignored Saddam Hussein's rally cry for a holy war. Instead, they voted to send forces against the Iraqi strongman. But in the streets of many Muslim nations, fundamentalists voiced their support for Iraq's stand against the Western powers. President Bush dismissed Hussein's call for jihad as a frantic ploy and warned Iraq not to escalate the conflict. In Brussels, NATO powers signalled their support for US military action in the Gulf, steering clear of any collective action. But France is sending 4 destroyers and West Germany several minesweepers to join the multinational force, and Canada joins the fray with 2 warships. Good evening and welcome to a special report, Crisis in the Persian Gulf. At an emergency summit in Cairo today, Arab leaders overcame a deep split. They voted 12-8 in favour of sending an Arab force to Saudi Arabia to defend the oil giant from Saddam Hussein's forces.
Even before the summit opened this morning, the Iraqis were talking tough.
We are not going to negotiate anything here under the American intimidation.
But the Iraqi bluster had little impact on the other Arab leaders. Most of them came to Cairo determined to do something. President Mubarak of Egypt, the host of the conference, warned that if the Arabs did not act, foreigners, meaning Americans, would act without them. The hard bargaining today came in small meetings. President Assad of Syria supported the military force. Libya's Gaddafi opposed it. Behind the photo opportunities, there were irate shouting matches between Iraqis and Kuwaitis. The Kuwaiti foreign minister collapsed, but recovered later. When it became clear that the Iraqis would not negotiate, the Arabs decided to go ahead and send a military force to Saudi Arabia. Egypt is taking the lead, and some here think the Arab force could take a forceful role against the Iraqis in Kuwait.
You think there's a real chance that this Arab force would threaten military action to get the Iraqis out of Kuwait?
That is always an option. And I think when they make the resolution and they carry out the plan and form the peacekeeping force, they are not really kidding.
The problem not solved here was the fate of Kuwait. Its ruler left Cairo today to return to his exile in Saudi Arabia. And tonight, Iraq's foreign minister denounced the decision.
That there has been a farce in this meeting, and the summit was to be used as a cover for a so-called Arab resolution. This is
Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein is appealing to Muslim fundamentalists to back him in a jihad, a holy war, against what he calls the evil and corruption of outside forces in the Arab world.
A trilby on his head and sporting a leather jacket, Saddam Hussein enjoys the adoration of the Iraqi masses. Today he's pictured casually in a not unsupportive family gathering. It didn't end there. Iraqi television provided this musical adulation to introduce his latest pronouncements read by a presenter.
We call you for the holy war. Do not hesitate to do so. You should stand up against foreign troops. You will thus achieve victory.
Like some sort of deity, he emerged in the center of a star. Fittingly, then came a condemnation of Saudi Arabia, the home of Mecca and Islam's most holy shrine.
Fellow Arabs and Muslims, all believers in God, wherever you are, this is your day to rise up, to protect Mecca, which is imprisoned by Americans and Zionists.
All Muslims hope to make a pilgrimage to Mecca at least once in their lifetime. Saddam Hussein, pictured there 4 years ago, was no exception. It is where Muhammad was born, but since Mecca is in King Fahd's control, the Iraqi president is hoping that his call for Arabs to defend it from foreign desecration will provoke an uprising in Saudi Arabia, fueled by religious fervor. In Kuwait today, more Iraqi pictures of what are supposed to be demonstrations by Kuwaitis in support of the invasion. The Iraqis have been at pains to stress the normality in Kuwait City again. Streets full of cars, people going about their business, and even interviews saying, "We support Saddam. He's the only one brave enough to take on the Americans." In fact, there have been reports of violence in Kuwait City, with some locals still apparently trying to take pot shots at the Iraqi forces.
Although Saddam Hussein is one of the most anti-religious leaders in the Arab world, his call to a holy war has won grassroots support from Islamic fundamentalists in Jordan.
Muslims gathered at the mosque for Friday prayers, and when they were done, the cleric led them in chant. "Destroy the American army," called the leader. "God is great," answered the crowd. "Death to the Jews," they cried. It was as though Saddam Hussein himself was leading the rally. The cleric told thousands of Jordanian Muslims that a plague had overcome them. He instructed them to join Iraq in a holy war against the foreigners. "We must fight," he said, "until the end." Later, they burned American, British, and Israeli flags from the roof of the mosque.
The Islamic movement in Jordan is ready to die in order to keep this area away from America.
We are all with Saddam Hussein because he knows what he is doing.
We don't like war, but if there is a war, we are ready to fight.
We are ready to fight if anyone wants to fight us.
For years, Jordan's King Hussein has played a dangerous game. Friend of Saddam Hussein, friend of the Americans who've given him the money to build his modern capital within sight of the poor Bedouins' tents. It's both a pro-Western outpost with American supermarkets and home to angry Palestinians who are 60% of the population. Jordan has been a moderate Arab state, but now Saddam Hussein is hoping the masses will force leaders like King Hussein to back away from today's tough response to his invasion of Kuwait. Here, thousands have registered for a private people's army to fight with Iraq against the Americans.
Everybody agrees that it is about time that the Arabs rose and stood up for their rights and said enough to our rights being trampled on.
Saddam Hussein is playing off the old Arab proverb, "Me and my cousin against the strangers." He's telling his cousins, the strangers, the Americans, are inside their house.